The Gewehr 98, abbreviated G98, G98, or M98, is a German bolt-action Mauser rifle firing cartridges from a 5-round internal clip-loaded magazine that was the German service rifle from 1898 to 1935, when it was replaced by the Karabiner 98K, a shorter weapon using the same basic design. The Gewehr 98 action, using stripper clip loading with the powerful 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser cartridge, successfully combined and improved various bolt-action engineering concepts soon adopted by many other countries including Britain, Japan, and the US. The Gewehr 98 replaced the earlier Gewehr 1888 rifle as the German service rifle, first saw combat in the Boxer Rebellion, and was the main German infantry service rifle of World War I. The Gewehr 98 saw further military use by the Ottoman Empire and nationalist Spain. Many have been converted to sporting use. History. The Gewehr 98 was introduced into German military service in 1898, replacing the Gewehr 1888. The bolt-action design was the latest refinement of the 1895 design patented by Paul Mauser on September 9, 1895. Mauser was already selling similar 1895 design weapons to many other countries, and had supplied less advanced Mauser rifles to the German army from 1871 to 1888. The 1888 replacement for the Mauser was an internal design from the army, but failed through an impractical design. In the interim decade, Mauser rifles became recognized as the world standard, and the German army became outclassed by a German-made product in the hands of others. The German Gewehr Prüfungskommission, GPK, Rifle Testing Commission, adopted the Gewehr 98 on April 5, 1898. The action was derived from the experimental Gewehr 96 rifle. In 1901, the first troop issues of the Gewehr 98 rifles were made to the East Asian Expeditionary Force, the Navy, and 3 Premier Prussian Army Corps. The first combat use of the Gewehr 98 was during the Boxer Rebellion, 1898–1901. In 1904, contracts were placed with Waffenfabrik Mauser for 290,000 rifles and Deutsche Waffen und Munitionsfabriken, DWM, for 210,000 rifles. At the outbreak of WWI in 1914, the German army had 2,273,080 Mauser 98 rifles of all types. Additional 7 million were produced during the war. The 8mm M/88 cartridge, which was introduced in 1888 and loaded with an 8.08 mm, .318 in, 14.6 grams, 226 gr, round nose bullet was replaced on April 3, 1903 by the 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser S Patroni, S-ball cartridge, which was loaded with a new 8.20 mm, .323 in, 9.9 grams, 154 gr, Spitzer bullet. The ammunition conversion was indicated by a small S stamped above the chamber and on the barrel at the back of the rear sight base. This was done since the 1888 pattern M/88 cartridge and 1903 S-bore pattern cartridge are two different non-interchangeable chamberings. Since the new IS cartridge had a flatter trajectory, the Lang Visier rear sight had to be changed with an S-adapted Lang Visier. Design details. The Gewehr 98 or Model 98, M98, rifle is a manually operated, magazine-fed, controlled feed bolt-action rifle, 1,250 mm, 49 in length and 4.09 kg, 9.0 pounds, in weight. It has a 740 mm, 29 in, long rifled barrel and carries 5 rounds of ammunition in an internal magazine. The Gewehr 98 has 2 sling swivels, open front sights, and a curved tangent-type rear sight, known as the Lang Visier. The controlled feed bolt action of the Gewehr 98 is a distinct feature and is regarded as one of the major bolt action system designs. M98 Controlled Feed Bolt Action System. The controlled feed Mauser M98 bolt action system is a simple, strong, safe, and well thought out design intended to negate as many failure modes as possible that inspired other military and hunting/sporting rifle designs that became available during the 20th century. A drawback of the M98 system is that it cannot be cheaply mass-produced very easily. Some other bolt action designs, e.g. the Lee Enfield, offer trained operators a faster rate of fire as the ergonomic relation between the bolt handle and trigger is more favorable and they can be cycled without loss of sight picture. Features: the M98 system consists of a receiver that serves as the system's shroud and a bolt group of which the bolt body has 3 locking lugs, 2 large main lugs at the bolt head and a third safety lug at the rear of the bolt, which serves as a backup in case the primary locking lugs failed. This third lug is a distinctive feature and was not present on previous Mauser bolt action designs. The 2 main locking lugs are positioned opposed to each other and display a locking surface of 56 mm2, 0.087 in2, whilst the third safety lug normally plays no part in locking the action to avoid asymmetric and hence unbalanced bolt thrust forces. The diameter of the M98 system receiver ring was also enlarged to 35.8 mm, 1.41 in diameter compared to previous Mauser small ring bolt action designs that had 33 mm, 1.30 in diameter receiver rings for additional strength and safety. Accordingly, the barrel shank was enlarged to 28 mm, 1.10 in diameter with 15.88 mm, 0.625 in of threaded area at 12 threads per inch compared to previous Mauser small shank bolt action designs that had 24.9 mm, 0.98 in diameter with 16.38 mm, 0.645 in of threaded area at 12 threads per inch barrel shanks for additional strength. The bolt handle is permanently attached to the bolt end, on the Gewehr 98, is straight and protrudes out for optimal leverage. Another distinctive feature of the M98 system is the controlled feed mechanism, consisting of a large, non-rotating claw extractor that engages the cartridge case rim as soon as the round leaves the magazine and firmly holds the cartridge case until the round is ejected by the ejector, mounted inside the receiver. Combined with a slight bolt retraction at the last stage of the bolt opening cycle, caused by the cammed surface on the rear receiver bridge, this results in a positive cartridge case extraction. The M98 bolt action will cycle correctly, irrespective of the way the rifle is moved or positioned during the bolt cycling action or if the cartridge has been fired or not. Only if the bolt is not brought back far enough, sharply enough, in a controlled round feed bolt action the cartridge case may not be cleanly ejected and a jam may result. The bolt houses the firing pin mechanism that cocks when the bolt is opened, and the cocking piece protrudes visually and tactilely from the rear of the bolt to indicate the action is cocked. A cocking shroud lock that was not present on previous Mauser bolt action designs was added. The distance the firing pin needs to travel was decreased to reduce and hence improve lock time, the amount of time between initiating the firing sequence by releasing the trigger and the firing pin striking the primer that ignites the propellant contained in the 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser cartridge. The M98 action features 2 large oval-shaped gas relief holes on the bottom of the bolt, which when catastrophic failures like a primer, cartridge rupture, or detonation occur relieve high-pressure gases into the magazine, and a gas shield on the bolt sleeve. Military M98 systems feature a secondary gas relieve where gas is routed down the locking lug raceway to a thumb hole cutout exit on left side of receiver. Civilian M98 systems often lack the thumb hole cutout, as the ammunition feeding is generally simplified to single round feeding only. These safety features are designed to route escaping gas out of the bolt and eventual debris away from the operator's face. The M98 bolt group can be easily removed from the receiver simply by rotating the safety lever to the 12 o'clock position and pulling out the bolt stop lever, located at the rear left wall of the receiver, and then operate the action and continue rearward bolt travel past the bolt stop. The metal disc inlay in the stock functions as a bolt disassembly tool. Many metal parts of the Gewehr 98 were blued, a process in which steel is partially protected against rust by a layer of magnetite, Fe3O4. Such a thin black oxide layer provides minimal protection against rust or corrosion, unless also treated with a water-displacing oil to reduce wetting and galvanic corrosion. From 1905 until 1945 the German military used ballistol intended for cleaning, lubricating, and protecting metallic, wooden and leather firearms parts. Safety. A 3-position safety attached at the rear of the bolt which operating lever can be flicked from right, safety on, bolt locked, to middle, safety on, bolt can be opened for reloading, to left, ready to fire, but only when the rifle is cocked, otherwise, the safety will not move. The safety secures the firing pin. The safety catch lever is quite large, making it easy to operate, but posing a problem for mounting telescopic sights low above the receiver whilst retaining good operability of the safety catch lever. Ammunition feeding. The internal magazine of the M98 system consists of an integral box machine to match the cartridge for which the rifle was being chambered, with a detachable floor plate, that can hold up to 5 rifle cartridges. The German military M98 system internal magazine boxes feature an internal magazine length of 84 mm, 3.31 in, to store 82 mm, 3.23 in, maximal overall length 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser cartridges without dimensional issues. The cartridges are stored in the magazine box in a staggered column at a stacking angle of 30 degrees, so viewed from the end, 3 cartridges touching each other form the points of an equilateral triangle. The magazine can be loaded with single rounds by pushing the cartridges into the receiver top opening or via stripper clips. Each stripper clip can hold 5 rounds to fill the magazine and is inserted into clip guides machined into the rear receiver bridge. After loading, the empty clip is ejected when the bolt is closed. For easier loading, a crescent-shaped thumb hole cutout is present at the left rear of the receiver top. The magazine can be unloaded by operating the bolt. The safety should, for safety reasons, be set to the middle position for this, or, in case of mechanical problems, by opening the magazine floor plate, which is flush with the stock, with the help of a cartridge tip. Alternatively, cartridges can be loaded singly directly into the chamber, as is standard on military rifles of the period, since the extractor is spring-loaded and designed so the extractor claw pops over the rim of the cartridge on closing. The Gewehr 98 had no magazine cut-off mechanism, which when engaged permits the feeding and extraction of single cartridges only while keeping the cartridges in the magazine in reserve. Like the M98 system, Mauser magazine-fed bolt-action systems were generally not manufactured with magazine cut-offs, the Ottoman Mauser Model 1893 variant being the exception. Modern civilian offspring of the M98 system. Though the production of the M98 system for the German military ceased at the end of World War II in 1945, the production of new Mauser M98 and Mauser M98 Magnum rifles for civil users has been resumed in 1999 by Mauser Jagdwaffen GmbH, Mauser Hunting Weapons Limited, according to original drawings of 1936 and the respective Mauser patents. These rifles retail, 2009, for approximately €6,800 for the basic Mauser M98 version, but the addition of luxury options can make these rifles much more expensive. Several other gun manufacturers and custom gun builders also currently produce new M98 system clones or M98-inspired bolt-action hunting/sporting rifles. Many Mauser M98-inspired derivatives feature technical alterations to simplify production. Trigger. The rifle had a 2-stage trigger with considerable take-up before the trigger engages the sear. This feature aids in preventing premature firing during stressful, combat situations. Sights. Originally the Gewehr 98 sight line had an open post type front sight, and a curved tangent type rear sight with a V-shaped rear notch, known as the Lang Vizier, Lang sight after its designer Lieutenant Colonel Lang. The rear sight was graduated for 1888 pattern M/88 cartridges from 200M, 220 YD, to 2000M, 2200 YD, in 100M, 110 YD, increments. The M/88 cartridge was loaded with full metal jacket projectiles of the round-nosed type. The standard open iron sight aiming elements consisted of relatively coarse rugged aiming elements, making the sight line suitable for rough handling and low light usage, but less suitable for aiming at small point targets. The tracks of the rear sight obstructed the view to the sides during aiming. The sights were designed with distant area fire targets like charging horseman units in mind, so the standard iron sight line could be calibrated for very long ranges. Military doctrine in the late 19th and early 20th centuries considered firing at distant area targets, where an officer would call out the range and the soldiers shot in volley, normal. German government-driven efforts to improve the performance of the military M/88 ammunition and the service arms in which the M/88 was used resulted in the design by the Gewehr Prüfungskommission and adaptation in 1903 of the dimensionally redesigned 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser Chambering. Besides the chambering, the bore, designated as S-bore, was also dimensionally redesigned. The 1903 pattern 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser S-Patroni, S-ball cartridge, was loaded with a lighter 9.9 grams, 153 gr, pointed Spitzgeschoss, Spitzer bullet, of 8.2 mm, 0.323 in diameter and more powerful double base, based on nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin, smokeless powder. With the improved ballistic coefficient of the new Spitzer bullet, the 1903 pattern cartridge had an improved maximum effective range and a flatter trajectory, and was therefore less critical of range estimation compared to the M/88 cartridge. With the introduction of the S-Patroni, the rear sight graduation was changed accordingly and could be regulated from 400 m, 440 yd, to 2000 m, 2200 yd, in 100 m, 110 yd, increments. Interestingly, while the modified sight line for 1903 pattern 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser S-Patroni is cartridges was calibrated for a minimum zero distance of 400 m, 440 yd, and can result in hitting high when using the open post front sight and V-shaped rear notch at close range. The pillars formed by the tracks of the rear sight allow closer targets to be quickly bracketed between the goal posts, a sighting method that automatically compensates for the high point of aim using the normal sighting method at sub 400 m, 440 yd, ranges. Stock. The Gewehr 98 oil-finished rifle stock features a semi-pistol grip. A top handguard was standard on all rifles and extended from the front of the rear sight base terminating just ahead of the bottom barrel band. A steel cross bolt was mounted to distribute the forces and hence the effects of recoil on the stock bedding, reducing the chance to split the stock. The stock featured a quick detachable sling swivel on the underside of the butt stock, a top swivel located underneath the bottom barrel band, and a parade hook mounted on the underside of the top H-style barrel band. The pre-war stocks were produced from walnut wood and were aged for an average of 3 years to allow the wood to stabilize. Beginning in 1917, walnut shortages necessitated the use of beech wood. The late war production beech stocks were less durable and heavier than the original walnut stocks. Accessories. The rifle was issued with a leather carrying sling. During the duration of World War I, due to a shortage of leather, slings were produced out of canvas. The rifle was able to fire rifle grenades. Various attachable rifle grenade launcher models were designed during World War I. The Gewehr 98 was designed to be used with a bayonet. For this the rifle had a H-style top barrel band with a 4.5 cm, 1.8 in, long bayonet lug. The long bearing surface on the Gewehr 98 bayonet lug eliminated the addition of a muzzle ring. The advantage of this solution lies in the fact that muzzle rings can interfere with barrel oscillation, which can significantly impede the accuracy of a rifle. The rifle was originally issued with the Gewehr 98 pattern bayonet. This AP-style bayonet has a 500 mm, 19.7 in, long quillback blade. By the end of 1905, this bayonet began to be replaced with the more robust and practical Gewehr 98/05, with the 370 mm, 14.6 in, blade. It was called the butcher blade by the Allies due to its distinctive shape, and was initially intended for artillerymen and engineers as a chopping tool as well as a weapon. Towards the end of World War I, the 250 mm, 9.8 in, blade Seteng or 84/98 was introduced as an economy measure, and because the longer models were impractical in narrow trenches, this model became standard issue during the Weimar Republic and Third Reich. Serrated, saw-backed versions of the standard patterns intended to be used as tools were carried by German pioneers. Variants. Sniper models. In the spring of 1915, it was decided to fit 15,000 Gewehr 98 rifles, selected for being exceptionally accurate during factory tests, with telescopic sights for sniper use, though the Gewehr 98 was not designed for use with aiming optics. To mount a telescopic sight directly over the rifle, the bolt handle had to be turned down from its original straight design. In the stock, a recess had to be made to accommodate the turned-down bolt handle modification. The telescopic sights consisted of 2.5 times and 3 times models, made by manufacturers like Gortz, Gerard, Oisch, Zeiss, Hensoldt, Voigtlander, and various civilian models from manufacturers like Bock, Busch, and Fuss. Several different mountings produced by various manufacturers were used. Even with a turned-down bolt handle, unless it is low profile as is common practice with modern hunting rifles, optics mounted low above the receiver will not leave enough space between the rifle and the telescopic sight body for unimpaired operation of the bolt or 3-position safety catch lever. This ergonomic problem was solved by mounting the telescopic sight relatively high above the receiver. By the end of the war, 18,421 Gewehr 98 rifles were converted and equipped with telescopic sights and issued to German snipers during World War I. Karabiner 98A. Not to be confused with the later Karabiner 98K or earlier Karabiner 98A, uppercase A, the Karabiner 98A, K98A, was a shorter version of the Gewehr 98 originally made for cavalry and support unit use. The original model Karabiner 98, with a shorter barrel than the G98, was produced from 1899–1908, but it was not successful. In 1908, the Karabiner model 1898AZ was approved. The AZ stands for Auf Flans und Zusammensetzverrichtung. The new features were a small diameter receiver ring, tapered rather than stepped barrel contour, an L-shaped stacking rod attached to the stock near the muzzle, a turned-down bolt handle and recess in the stock in the same fashion as sniper Gewehr 98s. The A stood for with bayonet, the Z stood for stacking pyramid, meaning carbine model 1898 with bayonet attachment point and stacking rod device. In 1923, the AZ was dropped for A as Germany sought to distinguish the model from the newer models B and K. During World War I, the Karabiner 98A was issued to light infantry, to cavalry, to mountain troops, and later to assault troops. It was liked because it was lighter and shorter than the Gewehr 98, and was thus better suited for use in trench assaults. Karabiner 98B. The Karabiner 98B was not technically another carbine variant, but rather was a rifle designated as a carbine to comply with the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which only allowed Germany to produce carbines. The Karabiner model 1898B was introduced in 1923. The 98B had a tangent rear sight as opposed to the original Lang ramp sight, a wider lower bend with side sling attachment bar, a side butt attachment point for a sling, and a turned-down bolt handle. It was otherwise merely a modified form of the Gewehr 98, from which the Karabiner 98K was derived. Combat service. The Gewehr 98 saw service primarily in World War I, as well as various colonial actions in the preceding years. As with all contemporary bolt-action rifles, it was a powerful and accurate rifle with long range that was poorly suited for the close-quarter fighting of trench warfare. The considerable length of the rifle and the minimum sight setting of 400 meters, far in excess of the typical range in trench battles, were particular handicaps. Its successor, the Karabiner 98K, would go on to be the standard rifle of the German infantry during World War II. Some Gewehr 98s also saw service in World War II, though many of these older rifles were converted to either 98B or 98K specifications. Military accuracy standard. For determining accuracy, the German military fired a group of shots into a target and used statistics to calculate a hit probability. For this they drew a circle that disregards the hits on the outer part of the target and only count half of the hits, 50% or R50, on the inner part of the circle. This dramatically reduces the overall diameter of the groups. They then used both the vertical and horizontal measurements of the reduced shot group to measure accuracy. When the R50 results are doubled, the hit probability increases to 93.7%. For reference, a 1 minute of arcade, MOA, circle at 300 m, 328 yd, has a diameter of 8.72 cm, 3.4 in, 20 cm, 7.9 in, at 300 m, 328 yd, equals 2.3 MOA, and 40 cm, 15.7 in, at 300 m, 328 yd, equals 4.6 MOA. The circular error probable method employed by the Germans and other European militaries cannot be converted and is not comparable to the common US methods, group size of 5 or 10 successive shots fired at 100 yards, for determining accuracy. For reference, the acceptance accuracy requirements for various US service rifles. For reference, a 1 minute of arcade, MOA, circle at 100 yd, 91 m, has a diameter of 1.047 in, 2.7 cm, 3 in, 7.6 cm, at 100 yd, 91 m, equals 2.9 MOA, and 5 in, 12.7 cm, at 100 yd, 91 m, equals 4.8 MOA. The accuracy standards of the other Gewehr 98 variants and most other service rifles used in World War I were similar. The Gewehr 98 after World War I. Sporting and hunting. M98. The Mauser M98 was a civilian version adapted for hunting and other sporting purposes of the Gewehr 98 service rifle. Vaguely similar to the latter rifle in appearance, the M98 was offered in many different hunting chamberings, not like the original service rifle. The Mauser M98 series offered several features and factory options that are also typical for Sportarist X service rifles, ranging from various technical departures from the basic Mauser service rifle it was based on to luxury wood grades, gold, inlays, engravings, and surface treatments like color case hardening. Some of the available options were originally developed and introduced by John Rigby & Co. on Rigby Mauser hunting rifles. M98 Magnum. John Rigby & Co. commissioned Mauser to develop the M98 Magnum action in the early 1900s. It was designed to function with the large-sized cartridges normally used to hunt big 5 game and other dangerous game species. For this specialized type of hunting, where absolute reliability of the rifle under adverse conditions is very important, the controlled feed M98 system remains the standard by which other action designs are judged. In 1911, John Rigby & Co. introduced the .416 Rigby cartridge that, due to its dimensions, could only be used in the M98 Magnum action. Rechambered rifles. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles left Germany extremely constricted in terms of military power. Civilians were not allowed to have any use of standard military weapons or ammunition. Since the 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser round was so stout and great for hunting, people did not want to give up on it, so a redesign of the cartridge was made for the civilian market, resulting in the 8 x 60 mm featuring a new longer case. The 8 x 60 mm cartridge was kept under 84.4 mm, 3.32 in, overall length to fit the cartridge in standard military M98 magazine boxes without any modification. The also rare 8 x 64 mm cartridge offers a comparable rechambering option for Mauser Gewehr 98 and Karabiner 98K rifles sporting 8 mm S bores. Due to its larger case capacity, the 8 x 64 mm chambering offers better ballistic performance than the 8 x 60 mm. Some custom rifles were made using Mauser 98s and rechambering them for the 9 x 57 mm Mauser. Since the purpose for these rifles was hunting and sporting, the bolt handle was professionally bent down. Gradually the bent bolt handle became the standard and replaced the older straight style, though that was of course not always the case. The standard military sights were replaced by a 100 mm sight, along with a flip-up on the rear sight for 200 mm. The military stocks were replaced by newer ones that did not include the extra length of stock needed for the bayonet lug. Today these sporter rifles are extremely rare and the 8x60 mm, 8x64 mm and 9x57 mm Mauser cartridges are nearly obsolete, as only few mainstream ammunition manufacturers along with some other smaller companies continue to produce them. When correct ammunition is used in a converted rifle, an 8x60 mm, 8x64 mm or 9x57 mm Mauser modified Gewehr 98 can be an extremely potent and inexpensive long-range big game rifle. Also, many Gewehr 98 rifles acquired as trophies by Allied forces during the war and brought to the US were converted to the 8mm06 Wildcat cartridge. A modification of the original 8x57 mm is chambering to 8x63 mm to accommodate the use of the plentiful .30-06 Springfield brass for reloading, with 8mm, .323 caliber, bullets. Such conversions are indistinguishable from unmodified rifle without careful examination, and can be quite dangerous if fired with the shorter 8x57 mm ammunition, as the cartridge case will stretch to fit the elongated chamber and possibly rupture in the process, which causes a potentially highly dangerous high-pressure propellant gas leakage. However, the Mauser M98 action is designed specifically to direct gas away from the shooter in the event of a case rupture. In the 21st century, the US-based company Rhineland Arms started to produce .45 ACP conversion kits for the Mauser action using M1911 pistol magazines. Shotgun conversions. Many were converted to shotguns, typically in 12 and 16 gauge, as well as a few in 20 gauge. In making the conversion, both main locking lugs were typically removed. The magazine was altered to allow a single shell in reserve. Many authorities recommend against firing these guns, particularly with modern Magnum shot shells. Weimar Republic and Nazi Germany. The Weimar Republic, the successor state to the German Empire, implemented a program designed to update their remaining supplies of Gewehr 98 rifles for the Reichswehr in the years following World War I. Rifles allowed into service with the early Weimar security forces were stamped with A1920 marking on their receiver ring. Further updates to Weimar-era Gewehr 98s often included the replacement of the Lang-Visier rear sight with a standard Karabiner 98K style rear sight, a hole cut through the side of the stock to accommodate a Karabiner 98K style side-mounted sling system, and sometimes a shortening of the barrel to Karabiner 98K length. Many were also given a turned-down bolt handle, replacing the original straight bolt handle style. Rifles that received these later modifications will often have both Weimar-era and Nazi markings, and S/42 stamped on the rear sight base. Some of these rifles saw use in World War II, but mostly in second-line units because the shortened and improved Karabiner 98K was the standard issue rifle by that time. Gewehr 98s were also sometimes stripped for their receivers, and Karabiner 98K rifles were built on those receivers. Some German police officers were seen using Gewehr 98s as the Allies entered Germany in the final months of the war. Additionally, Adolf Hitler initially chose to outfit his elite Schutzstaffel, SS, bodyguard units with modified Gewehr 98 rifles. Those rifles obtained by the SS normally had their original markings fully or partially removed and replaced with stylized Totenkopf markings. The Volkssturm, People's Militia, also made use of the Gewehr 98. Out of all their mixed arsenal, the Gewehr 98 was probably the best, since it used standard 7.92 x 57 mm as rounds, and a man trained on a Karabiner 98K could transition over to the Gewehr 98 easily since the actions of both rifles were the same. Ottoman Empire. Large numbers of Gewehr 98 rifles were also given to the Ottoman Empire both during and after World War I, including the majority of 1916 Waffenfabrik Oberndorf production. Many of these rifles were converted to the M38 standard by the Republic of Turkey in the years before, during, and after World War II. Today these rifles are widely available in North America along with other Turkish Mausers. Careful observation is usually needed to tell an ex-Gewehr 98 apart from the myriad of other common M38 standard Mausers. Czechoslovakia. After Czechoslovakia was founded in 1918, they bought several Gewehr 98 rifles for their military. Spanish Civil War. The rifle saw some usage in the Spanish Civil War, mostly in the hands of Generalissimo Franco's nationalists and German volunteer legions. Most of these rifles were bought and exported to the United States as cheap sporting rifles in the 1960s by Inter-Armco. Israel. During the formation of the State of Israel in the aftermath of World War II, the Haganah acquired substantial numbers of Karabiner 98K rifles from any European sources they could find. Some of these rifles were converted Gewehr 98 rifles, which aside from the Imperial German markings are identical to all O.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.